Donald Trump introduces a 25% vehicle import tariff, outraging global leaders. Major car makers make production gains. And Changan looks to expand its presence in Europe. This is the Automotive Update, presented by Autovista24. I'm Tom Hooker, and you are listening to the Automotive Update, where we review the week's biggest automotive headlines. And easily the biggest breaking news this week came from the US, where President Donald Trump announced a 25% tariff for all cars and light commercial vehicles imported into the country. This will be placed on top of a base tariff rate of 2.5% for automotive imports, starting from April 3rd, as reported by multiple news outlets including Reuters. The duty has the danger of unsettling the global supply chain, raising vehicle list prices, creating uncertainty among customers and possibly leading to job losses. This is unsurprising when considering that the US is the world's largest importer of cars, as told by Reuters. Some car makers will be more affected by the tariff than others. Mercedes-Benz and Porsche will be the hardest hit from the tariffs according to Bloomberg, and these manufacturers face a potential €3.4 billion blow from US tariffs on imported cars. Germany exports more vehicles to the US than any other country in the EU. Some car makers, including Volvo, Audi and Mercedes-Benz, have said they will move parts of their production into the States, according to Reuters. Meanwhile, other companies have said they will raise prices. Even domestic manufacturers such as General Motors and Ford source many parts outside of the States, meaning the tariff could still impact them. Most automotive stocks fell this week. On Thursday afternoon, General Motors and Ford saw their shares slump by 7% and 3% respectively. However, Tesla stock grew by around 5%, Reuters wrote. The decision has been met with fierce backlash from country leaders, car makers and industry bodies. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the tariffs were bad for business, worse for consumers, while Robert Habeck, Germany's economy minister, stated, "What counts now is to have a firm response to these tariffs from the EU, and that it needs to be clear that we will not take this lying down." Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron highlighted, "Trump asked Europe to spend more on defence, so it's not coherent to impose tariffs on us." And the UK's Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, commented, "Trade wars are no good for anyone." Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said, "We will defend our workers, we will defend our companies, we will defend our country, and we will defend it together." Looking at car makers, Volkswagen stressed that the entire automotive industry, global supply chains, and companies as well as customers will have to bear the negative consequences. BMW stated that both sides should promptly find a transatlantic deal that creates growth and prevents a spiral of isolation and trade barriers. Smaller volume manufacturers were also unsettled by the announcement. Ineos Automotive said they are outraged that the tariff situation with the US has been neglected by the EU. Meanwhile, the Director General of the European Automobile Manufacturers Association, Sigrid de Vries, has urged President Trump to consider the negative impact of tariffs not only on global car makers, but on US domestic manufacturing as well. In Germany, the VDA said the tariffs are a fatal signal for free and rules-based trade, while the UK Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders Chief Executive Mike Hawes commented that the announcement by President Trump is not surprising but disappointing if, as seems likely, additional tariffs are to apply to UK-made cars. Conversely, the White House maintains that Trump's tariffs would protect and strengthen the US automotive sector. The 25% duties will also apply to the importation of engines and engine parts, transmissions and powertrain parts, as well as electrical components. Automotive part tariffs could be implemented up to a month later. However, this will be no later than May 3rd, as reported by Reuters. If you want to learn more about tariffs and how they work, then head over to our Autovista24 YouTube channel, where I explain everything you need to know about the topic. I'll leave a link to our latest video in the show notes. While you're there, you'll find more of our What Is Explainer videos, launch report series and webinar recordings. Also be sure to check out autovista24.com for the latest automotive industry news and analysis. Make sure you're signed up for our email as well. That way, you'll get the latest news straight to your inbox. And subscribe to the Autovista24 podcast wherever you listen to us. We are hosted on Spotify, which means you can leave us a comment about this episode. Now, let's get back to the headlines. Hyundai Motor Group's Meta Plant America was opened this week. The vehicle assembly and battery production plant is the main focus of the OEM's $12.6 billion investment in Georgia and the largest economic development project in the state's history. It will produce up to 500,000 electric and hybrid vehicles each year for Hyundai, Kia and Genesis. The group has also committed an additional investment of $21 billion over the next 4 years to drive US manufacturing growth. Elsewhere, BMW has begun production of its Neue class in Debrecen, Hungary. The first model of the new generation, the iX3, has been produced as a test vehicle at the site since November 2024. However, processes and systems can now be optimized for around 6 months before the switch from pre-series to series production. Changan has announced plans to enter 10 European markets this year with its electric vehicle or EV models, as told by Reuters. The Chinese carmaker showcased its D-Power SO7, an electric SUV that starts at €45,000 at an event in Germany this week. Changan said it would launch the D-Power SO7 SUV from April in Norway, Denmark, Germany and the Netherlands, followed by Britain in June and then other markets. The manufacturer said its D-Power SO5 model will also launch later this year, followed by the Changan EO7 by early 2026. Changan added that it also plans to sell hybrid cars in Europe from 2026. Furthermore, the carmaker plans to build a sales and services network across Europe, with more than 1,000 dealerships. If you'd like to explore some of today's stories in more depth, then head to the show notes and click the link to our companion article on Autovista24. This episode was co-produced by web editor James Roberts. Additional thanks go to Autovista24 editor Tom Gegas and special content editor Phil Curry. The music was Better Find a Solution Fast by Richard Ames. Thanks very much for listening to the Autovista24 podcast.